Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Eye on Oshkosh. I'm Cheryl Hens, your host. Very proud and happy to introduce to you this guest this evening. He has been around this area for many years. The job that he does is incredible, and you're going to find out what his organization does throughout the show tonight. But Michael Rust is here, and he is an attorney, so you will see the jurisprudence signified the initials behind his name. But he is also the executive director of the Winnebago Conflict Resolution Center. And during the next hour, we're going to find out what the center is, what it does, how it might affect you in one way or another. So, Michael, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, we've talked several times over the years, in particular this last probably year and a half, for different articles that I was writing and used you as a subject in them. Because it is true, there's conflict everywhere with everybody these days, it seems. So tell us a little bit about, what the Conflict Resolution Center does and the history of it.
Sure. So the Conflict Resolution Center actually started in 1990. So it's kind of amazing when you think that the center's been around for 32 years and very few people even know that we exist. And so we've been around since 1990, and we perform mediation. So our primary service to the community is performing mediations between two parties who are in a disagreement, and we see if they can come to a resolution that doesn't need to use the court system. Okay. So we're court connected, so we do receive some of our referrals directly from the courts, but then we're also what's called a community mediation center. So we also are out in the community and receive referrals directly from the community, and people can just come directly to us to try to resolve their disputes.
So how do referrals come from the community? What in the community or who in the community refers these people to you?
We've developed relationships with the United Way, with the police departments, with the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative, and all of those different organizations, as well as just other people who have heard about us through Rotary or other service organizations have come to us directly and said, hey, we have a dispute and we'd love to have some help.
Sure. And it started, I recall you telling me when I talked with you one or two of those times, it started through something called the Oshkosh Peace Project, I think, and that was many years ago, and some of these folks got in touch with a national mediator. He's nationally known, right? Mm-hmm. I can't think of his name. What is it?
Dick Blackburn.
Dick Blackburn.
Yep.
Okay.
So back in the late 80s, a group of people came together and said, we see a need in the community. And so they developed this Oshkosh Peace Project, and over the course of thinking about it and learning from other organizations around the country, they realized that they wanted to expand the reach beyond just Oshkosh and look at Winnebago County. And then additionally, they wanted to see, is there a different way to approach it? Is peace the right approach, or is conflict resolution or dispute resolution? Because all of those are slightly different in the education, in the more esoteric education side of it, but from a, what it is that we're really doing, it is our job to try to bring peace into the world.
Sure. And I don't think that the Oshkosh Peace Project is even in effect any longer.
No.
And we should not confuse that with the Civility Project, which is still very much an active organization, and that I believe was started by one or two people at UWO. So I just wanted to make that clarification that we don't confuse the two.
But my organization, and myself included, are involved with this Civility Project. So
yeah, because they are hand in hand.
They are.
Just didn't want to give people the idea that Civility Project kind of started this.
Right.
And we're very fortunate here because there are not a lot of conflict resolution centers throughout the state of Wisconsin, right?
That's very true. Around the state of Wisconsin, there's about 7 different locations in total that have something even similar to us. There is a program in Milwaukee, a small program in Kenosha, a small program in Madison, and I kind of previewed this with you, but there is a program in Fond du Lac, which we have now actually taken over, so we're expanding our scope. And we helped to start one in Wausau. Okay. And then the next one would be kind of all the way, there's one in Green Bay, and then there's one all the way over in Eau Claire.
But you guys, with the Winnebago Conflict Resolution Center, are only tied in with the one in Fond du Lac, correct?
In terms of a formal alliance, if you will, but like I mentioned, we assisted in the creation of the Wausau Center. I meet with the woman who is in charge of the Milwaukee Center. We're all friends. It's a small community in the mediation world. Yeah, and absolutely. So we may not have a direct connection, but we are all connected.
Right, and so the one in Fond du Lac, you also oversee.
Correct.
And now, are they? What is their name? Is it Fond du Lac County or Fond du Lac Resolution Center?
Yeah, it is the Fond du Lac Conflict Resolution Center.
Okay, all right. So, are you the CEO of that place then as well?
Well, we're waiting to see for sure. So technically, right now, I'm the managing director of the Fond du Lac Conflict Resolution Center. We're in the process of finalizing what the relationship's going to look like moving forward, if it's going to just become a merger or how we're going to really do it. But the great part is that we can take what we've been doing here and expand our services to the Fond du Lac market and not be worried that we're stepping on their toes.
Sure. Do any of our mediators from here go there in Fond du Lac to help out?
We have always had an amazing reach when it comes to our volunteer mediators. We have mediators who come to us from Milwaukee to come up to mediate. We have volunteers who come down from Green Bay. We have, in fact, the gentleman who started the Wausau Center, he originally started out as one of our volunteers and drove from Wausau several times a week to volunteer his time and expertise in order to learn how to do mediation, and ultimately fell in love with it and said, I need this in my community. Yeah. And so we assisted him in creating it there. And so yes, we do have some crossover of mediators who are here and then go down there as well.
Sure. That's some dedication to drive that far a couple times a week just to volunteer your services.
Absolutely.
So what is involved, Michael, in getting a conflict resolution center started? I mean, I don't even know where you'd begin. I guess you have to begin by talking to the court system in your community where you're looking to start it, or what do you have to do?
So with our center, and really with most of the centers in Wisconsin, being a court-connected center is one of the ways that we get our cases. So yes, as a court-connected center, getting the buy-in of the court system is extremely important. Okay. We had a wonderful judge who took us under his wing early on, and it became his pet project.
Who was that?
Judge Hazy.
Oh, sure.
And he absolutely loved what we did, and he was a massive supporter of us for a very long time. I consider myself extremely lucky. I'm only the second director we've ever had at the Winnebago Conflict Resolution Center.
Christy Bradish was the first one.
Christy.
And she had been there for how many years?
I think it was 24 years that she was there.
Wow.
And when I took over, when she retired, I would tell everybody I have extremely large shoes to fill, which Christy told me I wasn't allowed to say anymore because it implied that she had big feet. But I still, even though I've been here for 9 years now, I still find myself introducing myself as the new Christy because she had such a profound impact on our community. And even though she retired, she still comes back and volunteers.
That's great.
It really is.
And you still, you do have a couple of long-time volunteers who are mediators. Christy being one of them, and another woman, I won't say her name. I do remember it, but I've served on church committees with her, and we go to church together. Well, I should say we attend the same church. We don't go there together, but she's been there. She was actually, I think, one of the founding members of the organization, and to this day still mediates cases. So
yeah, it's one of those amazing things that when people give back in a way that give back to their community in a way that really touches them, they want more of that.
Sure.
And so we have been absolutely blessed with volunteers who keep coming back.
Sure.
There are some who come and they do a year and realize that maybe this isn't the right opportunity for them to give back to the community, and others just really dig in and fall in love with the process, and we can't get rid of them.
Sure. Nor do you probably want to.
No, we don't. Absolutely not.
Well, let's talk about the way that most cases, I would assume, come to you, and that is one party or another files a small claims case. And, a small claims case filing used to be pretty nominal. I mean, I can remember when it was, I think it was maybe $35 or $45, and now I think it's like $175, or do you know offhand what the filing fee is?
Yeah, so in Wisconsin right now, the filing fee for a small claims case is $94.50.
Oh, 94. Wow, okay, $94.50.
Yep. And so what differentiates a small claims case from any other type of case is that it's a lawsuit for money, and the amount of money that is being asked for is less than $10,000. Or if it's a different type of case called a tort case, it's less than $5,000 that's being asked for.
Okay.
Tort cases are like car accidents.
Okay.
So car accident cases or other accident type cases, it's $5,000 or less, and on contract cases, bill disputes, those kinds of things, it's $10,000 or less.
Okay, but people can sue for eviction. Landlords can sue for eviction also.
Yes.
Through the small claims process, and I've had to do that, but I never thought about coming to you guys before filing, and now I know that. Of course, I sold my rental property, so I'm not in that position anymore, nor am I managing anything for anyone. But let's talk about some of the types of cases that you guys end up seeing, and we should talk first about how they come to you when a suit has been filed. And this is how I learned about you guys. I filed suit against someone, and it was a tenant, and I hated doing it, but I felt that was the only way I was going to get my money, and I wanted to ensure, or at least try to ensure, that I did get my rent. I didn't necessarily ask for eviction at that point. I just wanted my money. And so, unbeknownst to me, I thought, okay, this thing comes in the mail and it says to appear on such and such a date. And I thought, okay, this is the day of the trial. Well, I got there and they herded everybody into this huge room. I think it's room 60, isn't it?
It used to be. Yeah.
Oh, what number is it now?
Now they do those big cases in room 170.
Okay. So you're going upstairs now, probably, or maybe staying on the main floor. It's on the
first floor.
Yeah, but at that time, they herded us all downstairs to the basement, to room 60, and they said, you're here because you've either filed a suit against someone or someone has filed a suit against you, and if you have room for give and take, we'd like to try and mediate these cases. And then if you were willing to mediate or try to mediate, they would send you off to a certain room in the courthouse with the mediator and the opposing party, and you would try and mediate it. And if you couldn't come to a resolution, well, then it got scheduled for a court case. But I was in this room with all these people, and I thought, what in the world is this? Why are we all in here? So tell us about what kinds of cases you're seeing now, ones that someone has filed against another person.
Sure. So, and I think I misspoke because it sounds like what you actually were talking about was the mediation orientation, which is still in room 60. So you are correct.
Oh,
that
okay.
That is where
All
it
right.
is. There's one step before that I was referring to, where the court commissioner decides whether or not the case needs to go to mediation, or if the parties have already agreed to something.
Okay.
But if there is a disagreement, they call that a contested case. And Judge Hazy, as well as the other judges, created a local court rule. So there's a rule within the court system that any contested small claims cases in Winnebago County have to come through the Conflict Resolution Center before they can go to trial. And so that there is that room 60 meeting in the courthouse, and I get up in front of everyone and I explain what mediation is. And it's very similar to what you were describing. So it must have made an impression on you.
Well, that, plus I have a very good memory.
That helps too. So we then ask everyone if they're willing to engage in the mediation process. And if they are, we send them off with a mediator. The types of cases that we see in small claims, we see a lot of landlord-tenant. We see a lot of debt collection, whether it's medical debts, credit card debts. And then we also see the roommate disputes. We see lots of different types of cases within the small claims world. Because when you really think about it, the only difference between all of the other cases out there and a small claims case is just how much money are we suing for.
Yeah.
And so, I've actually heard it said somewhat jokingly that small claims court is the divorce court for the never married. Because, if you've lived with somebody, been with somebody for 20 years, 30 years, and you break up and were never married, there aren't those divorce laws to handle what do we do with the dog or the cat or the washing machine. And sometimes people can resolve that on their own. Other times they need a little bit of help. Yeah.
Thankfully, I've been in a position where I've been able to have a resolution within both of us. But I don't know. Sometimes I can see where pets, especially, because that's an emotional thing. And I think I know that there's movement throughout the country to make pets not property, but because they're sentient beings, and they're some people's children. Mm-hmm. Like my dogs are my kids. They're my kids. And, I don't think that they should be considered property. That just seems like a cold thing. But at this time anyway, the law is what it is, and they are considered property. And, I don't know what would happen in a divorce, an actual divorce, where they're fighting over pets. I assume the judge has discretion to, give them visitation rights or something like that, wouldn't they?
Most of the time, the judges in Winnebago County say, why don't you go talk to the Conflict Resolution Center? And so,
really?
And so we end up mediating property division disputes, including pets. And so we can help the parties to work out an arrangement on whether it's a visitation or however you want to decide that. But one of the really great things about mediation, as opposed to going to court, is that it's you who gets to decide. It's the party who gets to decide the outcome. Mm-hmm. If you go in front of the judge, you get whatever the judge decides.
Because they have to rule according to the law, right?
And yes, they have to rule according to the law. And then there's also the stark reality that judges are people too. Mm-hmm. And people can make mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's why we have a Court of Appeals. And we have a Supreme Court, because sometimes even the Court of Appeals messes up.
Yeah.
And so we have these different levels to protect our society. But in the moment, when it's your case, if that human being who's sitting there might make a mistake, you either have to go through the very arduous process of trying to do an appeal, or you have to live with the result.
Yeah.
And so, the wonderful thing about mediation is you get to have a say in it. You get to decide. You get to actually say, yes, I want that, or no, that's not going to work for me. And you can try that with a judge, but it's not going to get you very far.
Why is it that the judge, I mean, you've kind of explained it, Michael, but why is it that the judge would, I mean, they can separate the pots and pans of people's divorces, and they can say who gets the house, who gets the kids, who gets the car, who gets this, that, and the other, if they're fighting about pots and pans or whatever it may be. But why would they not take action when they can do something about children and say where those kids are going? Why would they not do the same with a dog or a cat or a rabbit or, whatever? Why do they refer that part to
we
you
don't
guys?
we don't have the same laws with regards to the animals as opposed to the children. I mean, we have very well established laws that are constantly changing, but very well thought out about what is the best interest of the child and what is the best, where should children go and support and, financial as well as other supports for the children.
Yeah.
That isn't, that area of law hasn't been built up, and so it becomes a difficult thing. And then even when it comes to splitting up the pots and pans, it's not always as easy as just taking half.
Yeah.
I think about, I have this one particular ugly green blanket in my house. And that ugly, scratchy, also, very scratchy, this ugly, scratchy green blanket was an Afghan that belonged to my great-grandmother. It has immense value to me.
Sure.
My ex-wife, it's an ugly, green, scratchy blanket to her. I mean, and she would never be that crass. But, it was not of much value to her, but it was of extreme value to me. If we just, if the judge just says, well, we're going to split the blankets 50-50, am I going to get the one that actually has a lot of importance and value to me, or am I not? And so having the opportunity to sit down and have those kinds of conversations in a safe location, in a positive manner, so that you can come up with the best solution.
Sure.
Is really a powerful tool. And that's why people really keep coming back to mediation, because it can resolve so much more than even just what the courts have sent you there to resolve.
Yeah. How much, and I don't need a precise number, but what percentage approximately of small claims cases that are filed do you guys actually mediate in the long run?
It's an excellent question. Many cases that are filed get what's referred to as a default judgment. So the party who is sued doesn't show up, doesn't complain, essentially says, yep, I owe that money. And so the court system just kind of says, okay, we'll grant a judgment. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take a slight detour, but I promise I'll come back to answer your question. All right. But one thing that people don't necessarily realize is what is the process of getting a judgment. Because a judgment is actually just a piece of paper that says a judge agrees that somebody owes you money. There is no magic vault at the courthouse that opens up and pays you when you win. Right. You have to actually go out and try to collect that money. And so that is a very unclear component of this whole process, that when people do get a judgment against them, that the court system doesn't help you collect. The court system doesn't pay you, but instead you have to go through that process yourself. And so sometimes people will get that judgment against them, and then the other party has to try to go through garnishment or some other method to try to collect their money. But because of that, and because we don't have debtor prisons or those kinds of things.
Not anymore.
That people will just say, yes, I owe Cheryl money. And so the judge grants the judgment, and that may be all for now, right? So there are a lot of cases that receive that default judgment. If there is a contested case, if somebody comes in and says, nope, I don't owe that money, or I don't owe that much, or I've never heard of XYZ company, then that case will get referred to mediation. So I would say it's probably in around 40% of the filed cases, because so many of them get that default judgment right off the bat, and then the remainder come through us, and we offer up that mediation service.
Sure. So let's talk about the process. If you have room for, as you guys always say, give and take, that made an impression on me too. And it's interesting because, sometimes you don't really feel like, you having give and take. You feel like you've given enough already, and why in the world should you give even more by mediating? And obviously, if you're going to be mediating, you're each going to probably be expected to make some consolations along the way, and that's why there's the give and take. But I can see situations where, one in particular, I just felt, hey, they've taken and taken and taken, and I'm done. And in that case, if that was one that I had filed suit on, I would not have probably wanted to mediate. And then what happens? It just gets, scheduled for a trial.
Yes.
In front of a judge or a jury, or
in small claims, in small claims in Winnebago County, they get scheduled in front of a court commissioner.
Okay, a court commissioner.
And then, that is the next step. The really exciting thing about attempting to mediate is you don't lose anything by trying to mediate. If you attempt to mediate and the offer that's made to you is not good enough, and you say, no, thank you, you get to go on to that same trial, that same court commissioner, and nothing that you've said in mediation can be used against you.
Really?
It's a confidential process, so nothing that's said, even if you said, you know what, Mike, I'll take half. I can't then later go back to the judge and say, hey, she said she'd take half. That's inadmissible in court. So it's something that you can openly and honestly have that conversation about what you'd be willing to accept without worry that it's going to be used against you later.
Sure. So let's just say you and I have a conflict, and we're sitting down in room 60 or wherever, probably in room 60, and we both say, sure, we've got some room for give and take here. Mike's not such a bad guy, and let's see what we can do. Then a mediator is assigned, and right from that room, you go off somewhere in the courthouse, and you start trying to mediate. So tell us a little bit about how that works.
Yeah. So you describe it perfectly. We send you off with a mediator right away, and see if there's we will talk to the mediator, or we'll set up the mediation right away, and so you don't actually have to come back. You get to do it that same day. And the mediators will take you up to the room. Sometimes we use one mediator. Most of the time we actually try to use co-mediation. So we actually have two mediators that go with.
When did you, I'm sorry to interrupt, but when did you guys start doing co-mediators?
We've actually, it's been a part of our process for a long time. We've tried to utilize that co-mediation process.
I've only had one.
Sometimes we don't know how many cases we're going to have on a day. We also don't know how many volunteers might show up, so we can't always do it. But most of the time we like to use a co-mediation model.
And why is that?
It helps that we can have more control over the process. We can understand more, and it also provides that mediator with a backup of if something surprises them, or if the mediator actually I used to know your brother in high school, or
a possible conflict of interest.
That something comes up later that we find some conflict of interest. I didn't know that your brother and my sister are married, or whatever it is.
Another conflict.
Right. And so, we can then seamlessly, have that one mediator step out and the other one can continue in a solo mediation. But using that co-mediation model, we will walk through the process of giving both parties an opportunity to describe why they're at the table. What led them to come to this today? So I am dancing around a very common phrase, and there's reasons why I am, but I don't use the phrase, tell me your side of the story. And there's two reasons why I don't use that. Side is positional. When there's one side, there's another, like a coin. You know, there's the head of the coin, there's the tail of the coin, and I don't want this to sound like, well, you're only telling me half of the story.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me all of your story. The other part is, I don't say story. And the reason is that stories begin with once upon a time.
Yeah.
Right? Stories are made up. And so people aren't telling me something that's made up. They're telling me what they lived. And so tell me what brings you here today. You know, tell me why you're here today. And you get uninterrupted opportunity to tell me everything about why you're here. And we enforce that rule and make sure that you have an opportunity to say everything that's important. And the mediators will be taking notes, not because we're reporting to anybody, but because this is what you lived through and we're hearing about it for the first time. And so we'll take the notes, and then using our notes, we will paraphrase back so that we know that we heard everything that you wanted us to hear. And then we'll give the same opportunity to the other party as well and let them say everything. And then we will, you know, from that beginning dialogue, we transition into kind of a negotiation.
Okay.
The simplest definition of what is mediation is we do a facilitated negotiation. So we are the facilitator of the negotiation. The negotiation process can go fairly quickly. It can also be fairly lengthy, depending on how agreeable everybody is in the moment. And so we will help the parties to have that conversation, come up with any agreements that they, you know, sometimes parties will make partial agreements, or, you know, they'll start building on agreements. Other times they just, you know, they'll start building on agreements and go, you know what, forget all this, I'll just give you everything you want. Or I'll give you some other, you know, they after talking about it, they just realize, you know what, I'm going to give you more or give you less, or, you know, and they come up with a good agreement for them. And they get the right to say yes, or they get the right to say no. And so ultimately the mediators will write up their agreement, and then everybody signs it. The original copy goes to the court and becomes part of the court record, and the other two copies go to the parties, and now everybody knows exactly what they agreed to.
Sure. And
it's enforceable by the court.
So let's say one party or another defaults on the agreement. And one question that I have for you also is, you know, you pay this fee, this $94.50 to file your suit, and then if you go to mediation and you work this out in mediation, you don't get refunded the $94, right?
No, you don't.
Okay. So it might be wise for people to contact the Conflict Resolution Center before you file a suit, and we'll talk about that. But you know, let's go back to my scenario here, and one or the other party defaults, and I'm sure that has happened. And what happens in a case like that then? Yeah,
so in the written agreement, we actually talk about it. So, you know, it's not just that Mike agrees to pay Cheryl $25 a month for the next 10 months, but it also says if Mike doesn't pay, what's going to happen. So it actually is already in the agreement, and everybody knows what's going to happen before they ever sign it. So they know. And that can be part of the negotiation even, that they will agree to different things in the default clause. That's what we call that section.
Okay.
They can agree to different things in that default clause based off of what they might want as protection. You know, so the way that I describe it to parties is the top part that says that Mike is going to pay Cheryl $25 a month. That protects Mike, right? Because it says that the case is dismissed. Well, there needs to be something in there that protects Cheryl too. And so that other part that says what happens if Mike doesn't, that protects Cheryl. And so both parties get that understanding and that very complete and clear description of what's going to take place before they ever walk out of the mediation room.
So you agree to pay me $250 a month for 10 months. I'm sorry, not 250, 25. Or if you want to pay it all in one,
right,
then it's
right.
$250. But you agree to that. All of a sudden, Mike has disappeared, and he's not paying me any more money. So how has the agreement protected me? What happens?
Yeah, right in that agreement it says, if you just have to fill out this one particular form, and it lists what the form number is, and you submit that form to the court, and the court is actually going to grant you a judgment just the same as if you had gone to trial and won.
Okay.
You get that same judgment minus any payments that I made.
Right, right. And so in that case then, I guess I would have to, so they give me basically a default judgment in my favor, and then I have to probably take those same steps that someone else would have to take to collect my money, whether it's wage garnishment or whatever the case may be. Is that my only option if you were to default? Let's say my only legal option. Because, some people, I mean, I'm sure, sat and watched some of these courtroom shows on TV. They're all over the place. You can't get away from them. And, and these people are, well, I'm sure they act out because they're in front of cameras, but...
Are you telling me that's what I should be doing right now?
I'm thinking of Judge Judy in particular, because that show is, I think, kind of a joke. I know she makes $45 million a year, $65 million a year, or whatever it is, but I think she's highly overpaid because I've never seen someone so rude to other people. And that's just not the way I think. And she basically, in that case, is a mediator. It says that those are mediated cases.
Technically, that's arbitration.
It's arbitration.
Yes, technically.
Not What's the difference?
So the difference between arbitration and mediation is that arbitration is essentially a private judge.
Okay.
You hire somebody who will make the decision for you.
Okay.
Mediation, the person is not in charge of the outcome. The mediator's in charge of the process, but the parties remain in charge of the outcome.
Okay.
In arbitration, you're hiring somebody to be in charge of the process, but also to make an outcome decision.
Or someone is hiring her.
Right.
So, okay, well, that's interesting. Oh, see, I'm learning something new. That's what I love about this show, is I'm always learning. Okay, so how many or what percentage of the cases that you folks have mediated actually get satisfied the way the parties have agreed to?
The vast majority of them
Really?
do. And really the reason is that the parties put their name on the bottom line. They agreed to it.
And they worked it out.
They worked it out and they agreed to it. It's far more common that the courts have to get involved when somebody else makes the decision.
Yeah.
And, well, I don't believe that judge. I don't believe that court commissioner would say that, so I'm not going to listen. And then the courts have to get involved again to try to enforce that, through the garnishment or other processes. When it comes to a case that the parties themselves have said, here's what I'm going to do, and they are much more likely to follow through. And if they aren't able to, they've already built that relationship and that communication where I can call you and say, you know what, Cheryl, 25 isn't going to work this month. Can I do 50 next month and skip this month? Mm-hmm. We've built that bridge through the mediation process that additional conversation can happen.
Sure. Now, in that case, would I have to, or you have to call the mediation center and say, hey, Mike is, he's had something come, his car broke down this month. He can't make the payment, but he's going to make 2 payments or 1 payment of $50 next month. Does one of the other parties have to report that to you guys at the center, or no?
No, they can do that all on their own.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about, a situation or situations where people would come to you without filing suit or before filing suit. I guess my first question is, I mean, they're going to be saving $94.50. That's the first thing. But my question is, how many parties really technically would be willing to do that?
It's actually something that it can be a struggle to get people in the door. But the alternative is that they are going to come in anyway. It's just going to be because the judge has said so.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when people understand that, they are willing to come in earlier, and they can. And I think it also just is a function of, do they know that we exist, that we will take those cases pre-filing?
Right, right.
But because we are a nonprofit, we're not the courts themselves, we can't force people to do this. So let's say a tenant calls me and says, I want to mediate with my landlord. Wonderful, we would be happy to help. Now it's the tenant's job to talk to the landlord and have the landlord call us too. And that's one of the breakdowns that we do see, is people might not be willing to reach out to that landlord or their neighbor who they're having a conflict with, or whoever it is. They're not willing to make that first initial phone call to ask them if they'd be willing to come in. Based off of how we are funded as a nonprofit, we do receive grants, and part of our grants allow us to provide services at no charge to Winnebago County residents. So up to 3 hours of mediation services can be at no charge. Okay. And so when it comes to saving money, this is absolutely an opportunity to do just that. So if that landlord and tenant can say, yes, let's go in and have a conversation, it's going to be free for up to 3 hours. And all of our mediators are professionally trained, and they will facilitate that conversation and see if that can come to a resolution before that $94.50 or any amount of money has to be spent with the court system.
Sure. So would you say that people who reach out to you guys before they file suit, that those also get mediated and the parties actually satisfy the agreement that they've set forth?
Absolutely.
Okay. And why? Because they've signed on the dotted line, but also they have been an integral part of working out that resolution?
Yes. And because they have said they're interested in finding a resolution, they're interested in creating a better relationship with that other person.
Yeah.
And I use that term relationship as, landlord-tenant is a relationship. Consumer-merchant is a relationship. Yeah. We have lots of different relationships, not just, a romantic relationship. There are lots of different relationships we can have.
Yeah. Have you seen a great many more cases being filed and therefore possibly mediated since COVID broke out a little over 2 years ago?
No.
Really? Now that surprises me because so many people lost their jobs initially, and it was hell right in the very beginning. And people, fortunately, they're, and maybe this is why, maybe I'm answering my own question. I mean, the federal government put things in place that people could not be thrown out of their homes, but when that, I'm going to use the word sunset, but when that protection expired, some people still were not back to work.
That is true.
But you're saying you didn't see this huge uptick in cases being filed and therefore mediated.
There was a lot of concern that there was going to, and this was the term that was being used in the mediation community, is there going to be a tidal wave of evictions? Once all of those programs sunset or otherwise expire, is there going to be this tidal wave? Thankfully, one of the programs that we were involved in Winnebago County was the Eviction Task Force. And within the Eviction Task Force, we actually created a bunch of flyers for landlords as well as for tenants to encourage dialogue as things were ongoing. And we heard from the Apartment Owners Association and Advocap and other
Sure.
tenant side resources that many people were coming through and were utilizing those services. And so I think that actually the Eviction Prevention Task Force actually facilitated there not being that tidal wave.
Yeah.
Now that we're in other parts of the state as well, I can say that what we were able to accomplish here is not what I see in other places. That there have been upticks in eviction filings in other locations.
Well, and the other thing that just astounds me is and this is my opinion, but please don't write me reaming me out about my opinion here. But I think, and I was a landlord for many, many years, nonetheless, I think that rents today are, and homes that are being for sale also, the rents that are being charged are despicably high. I think it is despicable what landlords are doing, by raising these prices on these tenants to the point that they are. I mean, I don't know where all the money's coming from. We're seeing apartments being built left and right just in Oshkosh alone. And I know that the rents are over $1,000. And I just, when you think about that your rent should maybe consume maybe 25, 35% of your net pay, and you've got that kind of rent payment, I think, wow, who can afford that? And yet these places are full and there's more being built all the time. But at some point, these tenants are not going to be able to afford this rent, I fear.
There has been a lot of a big push within the community to increase the amount of affordable rental housing. And so, I'm hopeful that we will see that, because I know that has been a focus, and that there are a lot of efforts to try to increase the amount of affordable housing.
And Winnebago County is,
yes.
They were kind of the impetus, if, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that they were the impetus for taking that on and sort of spearheading that project a little bit.
There have been a lot of agencies that have come together to try to make sure that becomes a reality.
Well, that's good, because I know what some of these people that I know are charging, or being charged rather, and I just don't know how people do it. I really don't. But I'm glad that so far things are the way they are. We've got like 10 minutes left, and I can't even believe that this time has just flown by. Let's talk about the mediators a little bit. They are just members of the community. They are professionally trained. Let's say Cheryl wants to become a mediator. What do I do? How much does it cost me? How do I get trained? When do I get trained?
Yeah. So our mediators come from all walks of life. And so, yes, Cheryl would make a great mediator.
Thank you. I'll call your office tomorrow.
All right. I'll take it. We do have some of our volunteers who are attorneys. We have some who are nurses. We have some who are retired university professors. We have some who are, we have one who's a middle school PE teacher. They come from all walks of life, and that is because anybody can be good at this. It really takes, good training and good experience, and learning from others who have come before you, but this is not the same thing as being a lawyer. This is not being a judge. We are there to facilitate a conversation. And having that opportunity to help people resolve the conflict is really, really exciting, and it keeps people coming back.
Sure.
We do offer the training locally. We are one of very few places in the state of Wisconsin that actually trains mediators. So I actually end up training mediators all over the state. I am, in addition to training mediators here in Oshkosh, I also am the trainer for University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Wow.
So if you wanted to go down to UW-Madison and be trained as a mediator, you'd get me. Or you can stay right here at home and do the mediation training here. If you are willing to sign up as a volunteer, which means that you are willing to come on Thursday mornings to do our mediation for small claims, and we have the whole, it's a contract that's on our website that describes all the things. We will actually underwrite 90% of the cost of the training. Or it's not quite 90, but it's close. If you are looking to be trained professionally, the cost at the Conflict Resolution Center is $850.
Okay.
$825, excuse me, $825.
Oh, $825. You just saved someone $25.
That's right. If you are willing to be a volunteer, we will underwrite that down to $150.
$150. Okay. So I am a little confused by the difference between the two, because I think I heard you say that if you're wanting to come to the center to be trained, it's $825.
That is correct.
But if you're only going to have to pay $150, where do you go to get trained for that? Is the center not still? Okay, so now I'm confused.
Yeah.
What differentiates between $150 and $825?
So the $825 is, we have people who come and take our training because they might work in HR, and they need to have these professional skills, but they aren't planning on being a volunteer for us. Or they might be planning on becoming a professional mediator out in the community.
Sure.
And so there's lots of different reasons why people will come in and do the training. If they come in as a volunteer, then we are willing to underwrite the cost.
Okay.
And they only have to volunteer for, we call it a minimum of a year. But if they do a 1-year commitment, then we can do that underwriting.
Okay.
The other exciting part is that we do actually do early bird discount of $50 off.
Oh,
so
okay.
We can actually break it down all the way down to $100 if you are registered early enough.
When does early bird registration take place? How would people go about doing that?
So our next training is actually coming up in June.
Okay.
So it's June, now I'm going to have to remember, June 13th through the 17th. So it's a 40-hour training. So this is not a small commitment. This is a pretty significant commitment.
And 8 hours a day then?
8 hours a day, 5 days.
Okay, so essentially 1 week.
Yep.
All right.
And so we hold the training out at the Coughlin Center.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
so
a nice place.
It's a wonderful location, and it provides us a great opportunity to do the mediation training. Mm-hmm. We have an opportunity there. Our training brochure is available online, and you can even register for the training online on our website.
Okay. And for people who are listening to this on the radio, I'll give you their website address. I thought I had it in here, but it's disappeared. But I think it is mediationwcrc.org.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I don't know where it disappeared to on here, but it's just gone. So if you are listening to this on the radio, then the website address would be mediationwcrc.org. Can people also call you?
Absolutely.
Okay. And so again, if you're listening to this on the radio, their phone number is, that number is still here. I don't know why the website address disappeared. But 920-236-4925. Do you have to be a resident of Winnebago County to mediate?
No.
Okay. So people can come from anywhere and do this. So 5 days training, Monday through Friday, 40 hours, 8 hours a day. Anything else that people need to know?
Once they've gone through that 40-hour training, we then have them come in and observe on Thursday mornings, so they actually get to watch 8 hours of mediation. And then they start doing co-mediation with our experienced mediators.
Okay.
So we don't really consider somebody fully trained until they've done the 40-hour training, plus done 8 hours of observing, plus done at least 8 hours of co-mediation. So, really, when I say that our mediators are very well trained, I mean it.
Yeah. I mean, this is intense.
Yes.
This is a very intense program, I think. But I think it probably demonstrates to you guys and to the person applying also that this is serious business. And, they're going to get a lot of things crammed into a relatively short period of time.
But we have a lot of fun, too.
Yeah, okay. I can imagine it is. I can imagine that. So co-mediation then, and then they're kind of off on their own at some point after that. Okay, I think that we're running out of time. I'm just kind of curious. We've got about 2.5 minutes. I'm curious how long a typical mediation takes.
Our average mediation is 90 minutes.
Really?
So, I mean, depending on the type of case, small claims cases typically take a little less. Doing the divorce cases or guardianship cases or other more complicated cases can take a little bit longer, but our average case is 90 minutes.
Okay. I know that you guys cannot mediate certain types of cases, and are there 2 or 3 types?
There's only 2.
2. Okay, tell us
and they're
what those
kind of
are.
the same.
Okay.
The only thing that we won't mediate is placement in custody of kids in a divorce.
Okay.
And the only reason that we won't do that is because there is a mediation service specifically for that. Mm-hmm. And that's all that they do. And so Family Court Services through Winnebago County is the mediator for placement in custody disputes with children. And so they are a wonderful resource and very, very well trained as well.
Well, yes, and in most divorce cases where there are children involved, I don't know, maybe it's in all cases, the kids actually have an attorney as well called a guardian ad litem. So in most of these divorces, there are 3 actual attorneys, his, hers, or hers, his, whatever. But each party and then the children have their own attorney. Do you know offhand who pays for that?
The parents do.
The parents do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it can get very expensive, and so that's why utilizing the mediators at Family Court Services for that type of situation could be really beneficial for that as well.
Sure. What kind of person, I know you said that they come from all walks of life, but what kind of personality characteristics must someone have to make a good mediator?
The most important thing is wanting to give back. Having that desire to give back to the community, to have that compassion, and really to be a good listener.
Okay.
Being able to recognize and hear what people are saying and recognize and establish that it's important. It may not be something that you agree with, but it's important. And that's a marvelous characteristic and something that absolutely makes somebody a good mediator.
And even if you don't agree with it, as long as they agree, that's the important thing. That's why exactly the mediator's there.
That's right.
Very good. Our time is up, but I could talk to you for another hour or 2.
Have me back anytime.
I will definitely do that. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure. And get involved with mediation if you think that this is something that you'd like to do and be a mediator. And if you are having a dispute with someone and would like to work it out or try to, before spending the money filing a court case, check out the Winnebago Conflict Resolution Center. That's going to do it for us. Thank you to Mike again, to my crew, and most of all to you folks at home. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.